If converting rejection into opportunity was a sport, then our next guest would be an elite athlete. A career forged by logistical limitations, no funding, no resources and no crew has carved her a distinctive visual style and satirical approach to filmmaking. Please welcome to the studio, Rachael Lucas.
Hi, Mark.
Hi, Rachael. How are you? Come in, take a seat on the big red couch here. Rachael, DIY filmmaker extraordinaire, Bondi Tsunami creator. Tell me what Bondi Tsunami was.
Well, it's basically a music video motion picture. It's a film made for music videos. It's like a visual soundtrack, and it's about these four Japanese manga-inspired characters that drive up the east coast of Australia in an old Holden. So it's quite an unusual film, inspired by this idea of playing music videos in nightclubs and in bars as sort of background footage. And so that was sort of the idea behind it, was something that you could watch subliminally or
actually sit down and focus on it as a film. And your distribution of Bondi Tsunami was a little bit outside, or actually not a little bit outside, completely outside the square. What happened there with the way that you got it out to audiences?
Well, what we did is we basically did a rock and roll type tour, made up posters and toured up and down. We all jumped in the car and toured to little venues and independent cinemas up the east coast. I think we did about 50 towns, and we premiered in Cobar in the middle of the desert.
Wow.
And the good thing about that is we built up all this publicity along the way. So the whole film snowballed into a cult film, and people would in the next town would know we were coming and all that sort of thing. So it was actually a really cost-effective way of getting a good brand name and getting the promotion behind the film.
With Bondi Tsunami, you also financed the film outside the square. What can you tell me a little more about? Was it on the plastic? Was it a plastic fantastic?
It's a credit card movie, and we basically shot it totally within our means at the time. It's not like we went out and bought everything the one week. I bought a camera, and I had a ladder and a moving car and a tripod, and that was all my equipment. I didn't have any lights or anything, we got a good microphone.
Now, Rachael, of course, you've been working a little bit outside the system, in fact, in a lot of ways, quite outside the system. I'm keen to hear what your thoughts are on where we're going. What are your feelings about Screen Australia, the new organisation that'll be combining the Australian Film Commission, the FFC and Film Australia?
Well, it doesn't really have much relevance to me because I've never I've never cracked into that loop. So to me, it's just reinventing the bureaucracy over and over again. And
just a giant one this time.
Yeah, just a giant one, more, just more crap to contend with. And I guess if I had it my way, I'd just buy 100 digital cameras, set up a place where people could go and edit and just get to the real stuff, and get
on with making the film.
Yeah, instead of giving people money to just throw down the drain, give them a digital camera and they can make it, and then sort of qualify people on DV, and then if they can cut it on DV, then put them onto film and
do you think there's
get back to the ideas.
Do you think there's a kind of almost like a genre war, an aesthetic war going on between the baby boomer generation and Gen X and Gen Y, where they see, it's got to be essentially really depressing art, to get up as a feature versus something that's more pop and more fun? Oh
yeah, definitely. Look, in the last 20 years, films have been, and the agendas of the key organisations have been laden with political correctness, and
particularly the last 10 years.
Yeah, and to be fair and all of these sort of things. And I think that's stifled a lot of filmmakers, particularly, and also such an emphasis on traditional narrative. And it seems to me, I guess your older filmmakers are coming from a more conservative literature stage play background, whereas I've been grown up on TV and zap fast editing, things that don't necessarily make sense or have a firm narrative structure, but they're very style based. So that's a fundamental difference. Is you're always going to have the younger people are very pop centric, and they're sort of engaging with different types of things like subculture rather than, you know, story and drama and narrative.
So the sort of, what's your thoughts on Dear Mr. McGee's hero's journey? Do you think we've had enough of that?
Well, I think that that's an American thing. I think you'll find most Australians, we've got an anti-hero's journey in Australia. Most of our films are about sort of downtrodden losers.
Let's make another Ned Kelly film. Come on, let's make another one.
So I think that's really stuffed people up, because there's a belief that that's the correct way to do things and everything else is flawed. So, you know, for somebody like me who likes to play with narrative and twist it up, or people who are doing more observational mockumentary things like Kenny or Kath and Kim or Summer Heights High, where you land in a situation that's very cult character driven rather than and watching their lives rather than, you know, dramatic points of turning points of action. It's very hard because those sort of concepts are written off as not having strong narratives, because everything's based around narrative, whereas I would argue, well, that sells. That's what people are watching. They want to see themselves on screen, and that's where actually Australians are at. They want to just sort of observe themselves, and they're not interested in the sort of Robert McGee CSI thing anymore. We've had enough of that.
Well, look, I absolutely hope that you get a chance to have another crack very soon at making a film. Hopefully you'll be able to also exploit the new producer's rebate, a nice 40% check coming back to you from the government. You're speaking upstairs in a couple of hours from now, so hopefully you'll be able to enlighten some of our many delegates who are here at SPAA Fringe. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Marcus. Nice to be here.
Indeed.